Welcome back, IB macroeconomics students, to this very interesting video. Today on the Keynesian Multiplier, okay, also known as the Keynesian Spending Multiplier, where we're going to be going into depth on marginal propensities to consume and marginal propensities to save. Okay, this is a very interesting topic. Now, without further ado, let's just jump into the first definition. Okay, MPC, not marginal private cost, as in macroeconomics. In macroeconomics, MPC stands for the marginal propensity to consume. Okay, the definition for which is marginal propensity to consume, and this is concerned with if a household's income changes by a amount, how much more would they consume? Okay. So this is what MPC is concerned with. If a household's income increases by a certain amount, how much more would they consume? Okay. The same thing for marginal propensity of spending. How much would they save? Okay. If a household's income increases by an amount, how much more would they save? Okay, and the formula to calculate this is actually quite simple. Okay, the formula to calculate this isn't complicated at all. What gets tricky is later on, because the formula to calculate MPC is just change in consumption, okay, or change in C divided by change in Y. Okay, change in C divided by change in Y. And as we remember, Y stands for income, because I stands for investment in macroeconomics already. So I stands for income. If you have studied elasticity of demand has Y in representation of income. Once again, for MPS, we have our changes in savings divided by the changes in income. Okay, so this is MPC and MPS calculated, what it looks like in the formula as well as their definition. Now, what is the Keynesian Spending Multiplier? You click on this video, you're seeing the title. What is the Keynesian Spending Multiplier? Now, if you remember the circular flow diagram, okay, remember GDP. Okay, GDP is calculated by government spending plus investment plus consumption plus exports minus imports, okay, or net exports, okay. So you remember this diagram very well. Now, let's consider something. If a government increases spending, okay, where does the spending go? Okay, so $1 spent in the government will go to a dollar to the workers. For example, a government is building a bridge. Okay, this bridge costs $1 million to build. The government spends $1 million, and this $1 million goes to the pockets of the workers. Now, the workers could either choose to save their money, which is a leakage, or they could choose to consume the money, or to spend the money, which is consumption. Now, if they choose to spend the money, then that will be consumption, which will be counted for the GDP again. So, which means each dollar spent is actually a dollar earned. Okay, so each dollar that the government spends is actually a dollar that a worker earns. Now, a worker, okay, in this very simplified model, could either choose to save the money or spend the money. Now, I know there are other forms of leakages, such as whether it is buying foreign goods, so the money or the cash flows out of the GDP, or whether it is taxation. But in this very simplified model, there is either one of the two things a consumer could do. They could either buy things with it, or they could save the money. Now, that gives us a really interesting idea. Okay, that gives us the idea that MPC, since MPC, okay, since spending or saving are the only options a person may do with their income, investments and otherwise are not counted, then MPC plus MPS would equal 1. Okay, that's very interesting. Now that we have an example right here, why don't we do some calculations? Now, before we have the example, we have the definition. Now, let me give you a more in-depth definition of the Keynesian Spending Multiplier. So, the Keynesian Spending Multiplier concerns the amount, okay, the amount by which an increase in spending will increase GDP. Now, it is important to take note. Each $1 million, for example, government increases its spending by $1 million. When government increases their spending by $1 million, GDP does not just increase by $1 million. GDP increases at a rate bigger than $1 million because the $1 million that the government spend, because of the circular flow diagram, would go to a worker, which will receive the money, and based on their MPC was spent a fraction of a portion of the money, leading to greater increases in GDP. So let's look at this example right here. Let's calculate. Okay, let's calculate what is the MPS. Okay, what is the MPS? What is the marginal the marginal propensity to save? So the marginal propensity to save is the changes in savings. Okay, changes in savings is 320 minus 300, which would be 20. Divided by, 1,100. 1,100 divided by 1,000. Now, what does that give us? That gives us 100. So, that of which shows, 20 divided by 100, which is 1 over 5. Okay. 1 over 5. That is the MPS. Now, the MPS, in order to calculate the marginal propensity, now that we have the MPS, what is the Keynesian spending multiplier? Now here is where the Keynesian spending multiplier formula comes into play. The Keynesian spending multiplier formula is as follows. Which is represented with the little k. Okay, the little k is equal to 1. 1 divided by 1 minus M. Why is that like that? 1 divided by 1 minus MPC, or because we know that MPC plus MPS equals 1, we could also say that that is equal to 1. 1 divided by MPS. Okay, so now that we know that MPS is 1 over 5. Okay, so now that we know that MPS is 1 over 5, the Keynesian spending multiplier formula will state that the Keynesian multiplier equals 5. Now, why is that? Because 1 over 5 divided by 5 is 5. Okay, so that is equal to 5. Therefore, each $1 million, each dollar that the government spends, a total increase of $5 will be added to the nation's GDP. Okay, so this is a very interesting concept, a very fun way to actually think about how spendings from governments actually is not just spending to governments, because each dollar spent is actually a dollar earned. And therefore, for every dollar spent that the government has, in this example, a total of $5 will be added to the nation's GDP. So I hope this video is helpful in explaining the Keynesian multiplier, as well as the marginal propensity to consume and the marginal propensity to save. I hope this video is helpful, and hope to see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.